Sign the divorce papers, you old hat. You and your daughter need to get out of this house.
Laughing, John thrust the divorce papers, already signed with his name, at me. Next to him stood his young mistress, Lisa, and their 3-year-old love child. Before I could say anything, my daughter, Emily, spoke up.
Leave? Dad, you don't know anything, do you?
And then, Emily revealed the truth, causing John and Lisa's faces to turn pale. My name is Kathy, 49 years old. John, a year older than me, and I had never been able to have children despite the years of marriage. Creating a happy family with John and children was always my dream.
We should pass on my superior genes to the next generation, right?
John would say, half jokingly. Both of us strongly desired children, so we never missed a chance to try. Yet, I had never managed to get pregnant. When we went for tests at the hospital, it turned out that the issue was mainly our compatibility and something in my body.
There's a good chance of having children if you continue with fertility treatments.
I had been encouraged by what the doctor said and had persevered with the treatments, while thanking John for his encouragement. Then, at 38, I finally got pregnant. When we found out, we both went wild with excitement. John often fantasized about how brilliant our child would be.
Maybe a doctor, a lawyer, or even a politician. Either way, he or she will be bound to be successful, right? He or she gotta get into a college with an SAT score over 1300. We need to start with high-quality early education.
As long as he or she is healthy and happy, that's all that matters to me. When I said this, John got defensive and argued.
Both of us graduated from top-tier universities. Our child has to be brilliant. Why settle for less?
I gave up arguing. Perhaps it's normal for parents to have high hopes for their children. No need to fret over it. Then came the time for childbirth. It was a difficult birth due to my age. Despite the intense pain, unlike anything I had experienced before, I was determined to see my child. We were blessed with a healthy baby girl, and John was overjoyed.
Our child at last. Look at her intelligent face.
I was incredibly happy too. From the time our daughter Emily was an infant, John started teaching her letters and object names, fully committed to her early education, as he had declared. It's too early for that.
Strike while the iron is hot. Our child is no ordinary kid.
Despite my caution, John wouldn't listen. However, when Emily was still under a year old, John was assigned to work abroad alone for a few years. The company showed little regard for an employee with a baby.
It's a sign that I'm valued. It's an opportunity for promotion.
So, John left for a distant overseas assignment for the sake of his career. I felt vulnerable. Was I to raise Emily alone from now on? Yet, I believed that maintaining a bond between him and his child was essential. I made sure Emily and John had daily video calls, telling Emily from a young age, "Daddy is working hard for you and me." Thanks to this, even though Emily hadn't seen John in person for years, she grew up adoring her father. She looked forward to video chatting with John every day and eagerly counted the days until his return. When John finally came back from his assignment, 4-year-old Emily ran to him and hugged him tight.
I'm home, Emily. Here comes Daddy.
John lifted her in his arms. I was thrilled too. At last, we were all together as a family. But the happy family time didn't last long.
Why can't you solve such a simple problem?
John's yelling and Emily's crying filled the air. When I rushed to see what was happening, John exploded in anger.
You've been neglecting Emily's education while I was away. She can't even write simple sentences, let alone spell basic words. And her math is just as bad. She got this simple addition wrong.
Wait a minute. Emily is only 4 years old. Isn't that normal? Don't be angry over such things. You're expecting too much.
Such things. I could do all this at her age. Don't lump Emily with ordinary kids. Our child, coming from us, can't be average at 4 years old. It's all because you didn't provide the right early education.
What? Do you have any idea how hard I've worked to make her feel close to you, John, while raising Emily on my own?
Don't make excuses. So, neglecting her academics is fine by you. I expected you more as a Princeton University grad, but apparently that was a mistake.
How dare you say that? All that matters is that our child is happy and healthy.
That's why Emily is falling behind. We're going to catch up on her learning now.
Since then, John started pushing Emily to study more. Emily liked drawing, but when John found her doing it, he got angry.
If you have time to draw, you should be studying.
John tore up her unfinished drawing and threw away her crayons. Then he forcibly made her sit at the desk and solve problems way beyond her level, scolding her.
Can't you even understand this? What a disappointment. Are you really my daughter?
Of course, I intervened, and arguments between us became frequent.
Emily hates me because I'm trying to teach her, but you've spoiled her.
It's not my fault. I raised Emily to love her father. She was always happy to see you on video calls, right? And when you came back, she ran to hug you, didn't she? Who turned her into a child who's scared of John.
So it's my fault now. The problem is Emily, who skips studying to draw all the time.
What's wrong with drawing? She's still so young. Let her do what she loves. And tearing up her drawings and throwing away her crayons is just cruel.
I'm not wrong. Drawing is a waste of time, especially when she's already behind in her studies.
Behind compared to you. She's not even below average.
Emily needs to be far above average. I'm doing this for her.
For her, you're just imposing your own ideals on Emily. It's your ego, not her benefit.
What did you say?
This approach is wrong. It will only make her hate studying. Just so you know, if you make Emily cry again, I'm filing for divorce. She doesn't need a father like you. John sighed heavily.
Fine, whatever. No matter how much I teach her, there's no improvement in her academics. It's a disappointment. Maybe it's true that children of older mothers just don't cut it. There's a higher risk of disabilities with late pregnancies. Maybe she's got one.
What did you say?
Yeah, maybe all the time and effort spent on fertility treatments were a waste. Why did I even marry someone who has trouble conceiving? It's too late to have another child now. What about my superior genes?
I was seething with anger at John's heartless mumbling. Since then, John rarely came home, using work as an excuse, and when he did, he hardly spoke to Emily. It seemed he had given up on expecting anything from her. For Emily and me, It was better this way. Thankfully, Emily could grow up doing what she loved, free from being forced to study. John showed no interest in her anymore. I no longer tried to bridge the gap between father and daughter, unlike before. We were both working, and I wouldn't struggle financially if we divorced. Yet, I didn't file for divorce, perhaps hoping that John might return to his kinder self, and that our family relationship could improve in the future. Or maybe it was just inertia. As time passed, Emily quickly turned 10. One day, after a long business trip, John suddenly returned home without notice. A young woman and an unfamiliar child emerged from his car. Before I could ask about them, John immediately said,
Kathy, I want a divorce.
"Wait, what? A divorce? Just like that? And who are these people?"
I'll introduce them. Call Emily down.
Just then, Emily came downstairs, and the five of us sat on the couch to talk. In the discussion, only John was talking. He embraced a child's shoulders, turning to Emily, and said,
Let me introduce you. This is your brother, Luke.
Brother.
Yeah. He's my child with this lady here.
John said, pulling the woman closer to him. So, John had a secret child. Looking closer, Luke indeed resembled John a lot.
This Luke, unlike you, has been under my guidance since birth. Thanks to that, he's exceptionally talented and intelligent, unlike you. Just look at his smart expression. He's only 3, yet he can write simple sentences and do addition. Not to mention knowing the alphabet and simple words. Impressive, right? A far cry from the disappointment that you are.
I was speechless with John boasting about his secret child to Emily. Next, John introduced his mistress, Lisa, to me.
Lisa here gave birth to Lou. Having a child with someone other than you was the right decision, huh? Children from younger women are just different. Nothing like what an old hag like you could produce. And unlike you, she understands and agrees with my educational approach. She doesn't oppose me like you do. Young women are just more compliant. And their skin is so much smoother, just the best.
While John was talking, we remained silent. Meanwhile, Lisa looked smug, and the child seemed happy to be praised.
So, sign the divorce papers. You old hag and your daughter get out of the house. I'm going to live here happily with my young wife and talented son. From today on, Luke is my only child. The time I spent with you two was a complete waste.
John placed the divorce papers signed with his name on the table and slid them towards me. Before I could say anything, Emily spoke up.
Get out. Dad, you don't know anything, do you? The one leaving should be you because this house belongs to Mom.
John and Lisa were taken aback.
This house was given to Mom by Grandma and Grandpa. Right, Mom?
Exactly, Emily. This house, transferred to me by my parents before our marriage, is in my name. Don't you remember that? So much for your so-called brilliant mind.
Well, anyone could forget that. But how does Emily know about this?
Of course, I told her. Emily found that painting in the basement and asked about it. I pointed to a painting on the wall. Though old, it clearly depicted our house. There, a young me and my mother were playing in the yard, and my father was sitting on the terrace. The happy family painting even had my father's signature. Emily was delighted when she saw this. Grandpa loved painting too, didn't he?
Still love painting. Oh, is that why there are so many paintings around?
John looked around at the walls.
Really, these are wonderful paintings. Who's the artist? Do you know, John?
No, I don't know, but they're really lifelike and impressive.
At his words, Emily puffed her chest with pride.
These are my paintings.
What? Come on, don't joke around.
It's not a joke. Except for the one of Grandpa, I painted all of these.
There's no way you could paint at this level.
What Emily is saying is true.
What? So all of these are really? They don't look like a child's work.
Emily has always loved to paint, you didn't know, but she has developed her talent and now sweeps awards at various competitions. She's even been on TV.
On TV?
John, incredulous, quickly searched on his smartphone.
It's true. Emily's in the news as a little genius artist.
Some people recognized the value in Emily's paintings and bought them for a high price, about $3,000.
$3,000 for a kid's paintings? No way. I haven't heard anything about this.
You've always been indifferent to Emily. Plus, you said her drawings were worthless, tore them up, threw her crayons away. I thought someone like you wouldn't understand.
If she can paint like this, that's a different story. And she's even becoming famous as a genius artist. Right? Amazing, Emily. That's my daughter. I've always believed she would be successful from the moment she was born. This is the result of my upbringing.
What? Don't be ridiculous. It's the opposite. You always interfered, tried to crush her talent.
I didn't know she had such talent, so it can't be helped. Now that I know, as her father, I will further develop her talent. So let's hold off on that divorce.
Hey, John, that's not what you said earlier.
Lisa exclaimed angrily. I was appalled by John's selfish reasoning. Develop her talent, yeah, right. You'd just hurt her, stunt the growth of her talent.
Shut up. If you're gonna talk big and loud, tell me what kind of education you've given Emily to recognize and develop her talent. If you can do it, then I should be able to do it too.
John was shouting with a red face. I replied to him. I haven't done anything special. I just supported Emily in doing what she loves.
Then, with the right education, she could grow even more. She could be even more successful. If you guys want that, then I guess I can stay with you all.
John seemed determined to maintain his superiority. Fine by me. I've signed the divorce papers, so I'll be filing them to the district court now.
What? I told you to wait on the divorce. Why are you doing this on your own?
On my own. You were the one who signed the papers and thrust them at me. At that, John was at a loss for words. Lisa was shaking John.
You're going to divorce Kathy and marry me, right? You said Luke was your only child. You're not backing out now, are you? Huh?
Shut up. Just be quiet for a minute.
Don't take your frustration out on the young woman who gave you a talented son. Anyway, as you wished, we're getting divorced. So could you three please leave?
Wait, are you sure about this? Life will be tough if you divorce me.
We make enough money working together, and I can live without you.
You're okay with taking her father away from the child?
She's better off without a father like you. Besides, you said your only child is the talented Luck. Now that you know Emily has talent, you suddenly care. Well, it's too late.
Here, Dad, I'll show you my latest painting that won an award.
Emily went upstairs, came back with a painting. I knew exactly which one she would bring. She grinned and unfolded the painting for John and Lisa.
This one's called Shade of Love.
Seeing the painting, John and Lisa froze, turning pale. No wonder. It depicted them. In the painting, John and Lisa were holding hands and leaning close. But their expressions and the shadows cast suggested their love was anything but pure. The realistic details, right down to the wrinkles, made them even more uncomfortable. It was hard to believe a 10-year-old had painted it. I knew about your affair for a while. I even hired a detective to take photos, and Emily saw them and painted this. By the way, this painting won first prize at a county art competition and is displayed in a museum. So, you both are sort of famous as the models in this painting.
That's why people were staring at us. We're exposed in a museum. No.
Lisa screamed, causing the child to cry in shock.
Hey, this is not a joke. What were you thinking, exposing this painting to the public?
Well, I thought you and that lady made a great subject for a painting.
Emily replied nonchalantly. This meant John could no longer boast about being the father of a genius artist. He must have realized this. Look, just go. I think you understand, but I'll be filing for alimony from both you and Lisa, and child support from you, John. I kicked them out of the house, feeling drained. Emily and I then went to the district court to submit the divorce papers. Later, through a lawyer, I demanded a hefty alimony from John and Lisa, including child support for Emily for sure. John, who earned well, paid the alimony for both himself and Lisa in a lump sum, and agreed to monthly child support payments. A year later, Emily and I were living comfortably in our house when John showed up out of the blue.
It's been a while. You guys haven't been struggling without me, have you? I can come back.
John's still talking down to me as usual, but his appearance is a mess like I've never seen before. His clothes are all tattered, his hair's a mess, and his eyes look empty and sunken. It was clear something had happened. Ignoring his appearance, I responded, "We're not struggling at all. I got a promotion and a raise, and Emily is further developing her artistic talent. More people are buying her paintings, so we're fine. You, Lisa, and your talented Luke must be living happily too." I assumed John had officially married Lisa by then. Hearing this, John broke down and begged to be taken back.
Please, let me be part of your family again. I have no one else but you two.
Confused, I decided to listen to his story. It seemed John regretted not becoming the father of a genius artist. Moreover, in his and Lisa's circle, many parents were investing in early education, and children with Luke's level of ability weren't uncommon. In reality, they had willingly connected with such people. Suddenly, the academic abilities of Luke that John had boasted about no longer seemed rare or exceptional to him.
If Emily can do it, Luke should be able to as well.
John tried to make Luke paint, but his approach was harsh. John took away the picture book Luke was reading, dragged him in willingly to a canvas, handed him a paintbrush, and yelled at him to paint. If he didn't like the painting, he would tear it up and scream at him.
Don't mess around. You're terrible. Why can't you paint exactly what you see? You won't beat your sister like this. Why such awful colors? You're a disappointment, a stupid son.
John compared and berated him.
I hate you, Dad.
Luke became completely frightened and started sobbing. Hearing this, John yelled even more, repeating the same mistakes he made with Emily, but he never realized it. The difference was Lisa's obedience to John. Unlike me, she never tried to stop him.
Just do as your father says. Don't make him angry.
Instead, it seemed she was saying that to Luke. No one stopped John's rampage, and it wasn't long before it turned violent.
Luke is only 3 years old. If he starts drawing high-level paintings now, he can become a younger genius artist than Emily. He can surpass her and show them all.
John was obsessed with this idea and subjected Luke to an almost bullying form of education day after day. Eventually, neighbors reported John's actions as abuse, and Luke was taken into Child Protective Services.
I'm just educating my beloved son,
John claimed, but his argument was completely disregarded. Deeply saddened by the separation from her son, Lisa repeatedly appealed to the Child Protective Services to return Luke to her. The staff explained to her that what John was doing qualified as educational abuse, and that unless she divorced John, they could not return Luke. These words were a wake-up call for Lisa, and she decided to divorce John.
Please divorce me. I can't stand to see Luke being bullied by you anymore. I've been a bad mother for not protecting him. I believed, or tried to believe, in your so-called education. But it was wrong.
John was shocked and furious when the obedient Lisa he knew demanded a divorce.
Don't joke with me. Are you complaining about my education now too? I'm doing it for Luke's sake.
For Luke's sake? No, it was to compete against Emily and Kathy. For your own sake.
Shut up. Your obedience was what I liked about you. Don't go against me. Just stay quiet and obey.
However, Lisa's resolve did not waver. And if anything, her decision to divorce only grew stronger.
I've always hated that about you. I just couldn't say it, and that's why things ended up like this. So, let's get divorced.
Are you stupid? You don't work. You're a stay-at-home mom. How will you live without me after the divorce? Especially since you've been disowned by your parents over the affairs, secret child, and marriage stealing.
Then I'll just have to work. I'll put Luke in daycare and work. I'll try to apologize to my parents. Even if it means working in a nightclub. It's better than this.
You want to take Luke's father away from him that badly, after we finally got officially married.
Yes, I do. Better to have no father than one like you.
John must have felt dizzy hearing the same words he once heard from me. Ultimately, Lisa managed to take Luke back from Child Protective Services and moved out. John refused to accept the divorce and fought for custody of Luke, thinking his financial advantage would win. However, the courts recognized his abuse, and Lisa was granted custody.
It's not abuse. It's education.
John protested, but again, his argument was not acknowledged. Desperate for visitation rights, which were also denied, John faced cold treatment at work due to the scandal, leading to mistakes, a pay cut, and a demotion. As for Lisa, she reconciled with her estranged parents, who now help take care of Luke while she works hard.
The Child Protective Services, the family court, Lisa, my colleagues, none of them understand. I'm not abusing anyone. Luke was wrongfully taken into custody, and yet everyone is treating me like the bad guy.
I was completely dumbfounded. Even now, this man didn't understand what he did wrong. He didn't understand, and that's why he repeated his mistakes. It seemed futile to say anything, but I couldn't hold back. You're treating the child like a tool to satisfy your own ego without considering his feelings. Just go. Don't show yourself in front of Emily again. You have no place here anymore. With my cold voice, John left in shock, staggering away. Later, I heard from an acquaintance that John is now claiming on social media about kidnapping by Child Protective Services and child abduction by his wife. I saw John's social media account through the acquaintance.
I was accused of child abuse and my son was kidnapped. You can't even scold your child anymore. My first wife took my daughter, and now my second wife took my son, and I'm not allowed to see them. My daughter and son both loved and adored me. They must be wanting to see me. Child abduction is a crime. There should be joint custody. The family court only recognizes mothers for custody. It's messed up.
He kept repeating such claims, and it scared me. I abducted my daughter. Who was it that abandoned his daughter and declared in front of her that his only child was Luke? The person who turned Emily and Luke against their father was none other than himself. Though it's hard to give up the house given by my parents, I decided to move to ensure John couldn't follow us. Will John continue to live blaming everyone else for his situation without ever realizing his own faults? Blaming me, Lisa, his daughter, his son, child services, the court, sole custody, society, and more. Emily and I decided to expose John's actions on social media. John gains sympathy and understanding from his circle on social media. However, he keeps repeating the same claims at work, becoming increasingly isolated, and I heard he's on the verge of being fired due to negligence.